Suzanne's Paparazzi Jewelry, 24/7 shopping available. 160920 is the code. Show her some love, like she showed us.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Coast to Coast Entertainment Network. I am Ace, and I'm joined tonight by none other than my co-host, Mr. Mess Around Dave. How you doing tonight, my man?
I'm good. Just got done finishing dinner that my daughter made the family night bacon, BLTs, and onion rings, so it was good.
That sounds absolutely amazing. Like, I'm not gonna lie, that sounds good. But you are definitely watching another episode of the Red Tape Files here tonight on Coast to Coast. And tonight we actually have a very interesting case for you, so to say. This case, this is a case about a 2-year-old boy who basically went missing. His name is Thomas Gibson. So if nobody's heard of this case before, this one and I actually has a lot of information, a lot of interesting information, to say the least. When I was when I was reading up about the information on this and kind of what happened and what could have happened, I was kind of back and forth on. I'm like, shoot, who the heck do I believe in this story? Only because of all that information. So, Mess Around, as you were reading all of this, were you kind of the same way that you're like, do I believe the father? Do I believe the mother and daughter? Because there was like so many different ways you could have gone with this.
I don't know. For me, I was like really one-sided at first, and then the more I started reading, I'm like, who knows what happened to this little kid? The more I read.
Well, right, because let's start out by saying the father. The father was a cop. Okay, he was a sheriff, and so as the story goes, his story was claiming that, you know, he left to go on a jog, and when he left to go on a jog, his 2-year-old son Thomas wanted to go play in the front yard. Now, this is the weird part to me. Now, I understand, you know, it was 1990, it was right there, so a lot of, you know, high crime wasn't at that part. But when he's saying that his 2-year-old daughter was playing in the front yard with his 2-year-old son Thomas was playing in the front yard with his 4-year-old daughter, and his 4-year-old daughter was keeping an eye on his 2-year-old, I'm like, what kind of messed up, like, that to me already kind of drew a red flag. You're going to leave your 2-year-old son with your 4-year-old daughter.
Yeah, that part didn't make sense to me. I was like, who does that? You're really going to leave your 4-year-old in charge of a 2-year-old? Come on.
Yeah. And, you know, so then he goes on this jog. So as he goes on this jog, he comes back. And then once he comes back is when he noticed that his son was missing.
Then he also claimed to like shoot.
Well, yeah.
Shoot his cat.
Yeah, because I was going to say, this is where the story gets interesting, is because, you know, once he comes back and he says that his son was missing, well, his wife was, but his wife had some interesting things to say about that too also, when you think about it, because his story was, he shot a feral cat, his neighbor's cat. Okay, he shot his neighbor's cat because it was in their yard. So he shot it, or well, what he says is that he
shot and missed.
He missed it, okay, and then he went on his jog after that because apparently the cat was like by his son. So then he left for that jog. But according to his wife, was after he shot that bullet that she could still hear her son playing outside. So, you know, so we can sit here, we can talk about the bullet and think, do you really think that bullet had anything to do with it?
No, I think if anything, that bullet was used to he shot at the kid, not at the cat.
Well, but he said he missed. And when they came back, though, there was a dead cat that was laying in the spot to where he said that he shot but missed it. But then that's when they realized that his son was missing also. And then when you look at like the various little like details and everything that kind of surrounds, and I know Mess Around, you were kind of telling me the same thing. As you go into details, you could clearly see that everybody's story was just whack. Like it was all over the place.
It was. I mean, you had like the daughter saying that she saw the dad slap him in the face multiple times and throw him in the back of the car.
But if you remember her first original story
Was
when
it
the dad came back, was she said there was a car that was idling and there was a guy and a girl who kidnapped him and put him in their car and they drove off. That was her first original story. And apparently she didn't speak up because she was afraid.
Yeah, she said that her dad told her to lie about that part and say that part.
Yeah, which I do remember seeing that, but I don't know, because like we were saying, the story had changed so much, and even the mom story had continuously changed. So when you look at this whole situation also, and you kind of put like the facts and the clues and everything together, and you talk about, okay, so the dad shot a bullet. Suppose we had a cat. Missed the cat. The son disappeared, but after the bullet was shot, the mom still heard the son talking. The daughter says that a car is idle, kidnaps the boys, drives off.
Yeah, and they said the couple consisted of a blonde white woman and a dark-haired white man driving an older model gold or tan truck.
Yeah, which is what the daughter kept saying. That's what she was saying. But then you also have to look into context. Look at the police vehicle also. There was 7 uncounted miles in the cop car that they're like, wait, where'd this 7 miles come from? Because these 7 miles were like they were unreported miles.
And then he came out and said that he drove to a nearby rest area to look for his son.
Yeah, which let me say now let's all understand this took place in Oregon. This was Azalea, Oregon that it took place at. Okay, we're from Oregon. Okay, so we kind of know this area around here. Now I can't sit here and tell you whether or not at that point in time that there was a rest area 7 miles away. I know that between there's one that's 17 miles, but I don't know about 7 unless it's changed. It could have changed, but I don't know. That to me was just fishy, because that was when like the daughter then stepped forward and talked about, well, okay, I was in my bedroom, I looked out the window and I saw my dad hit him a couple times, and then he went. And
then when they went to trial, she was like, she commented about being frightened that her father would put her in a big hole like he did Thomas.
Yeah, because apparently, if you remember that, she came out and she was like, well, I can't say anything because my father told me that I would be punished for the rest of my life. I would be in trouble. And so to me, I kind of maybe agree with the daughter in a way that maybe she was frightened. She's 4 years old. If she saw what she's saying she saw, obviously she's going to be afraid. She might be afraid to step forward and be like, look, this is what happened. I saw my father hit my brother, killed him, put him in a garbage bag, put him in the back of his car, and then he drove off.
Right. And at 4 years old, something that dramatic happens, you're not going to forget about it. You're not going to lie about it. I kind of agree with the daughter.
Yeah, but when it comes down to it, though, also think about the mom in this situation. Okay, the mom is one that to me kind of makes it interesting, also because of how her story has changed on a few occasions. When it started out, and she took the stand and she was like, okay, he would hit the kids if they got in the way. He would call them names. He would just push them out of the way or whatever. That was her story.
Yeah.
So if this indeed happened, then maybe it is possible that
in late February of 95, Larry's half-sister, Debbie Calick, provided testimony against him, stating that after Thomas went missing, she had received a frantic phone call from Larry in which he confessed to killing Thomas and telling her he may need money to post bail after his arrest.
Yes, because if you follow up on that story too, I don't know if you read the rest of it, but according to him, he said it was one of those accidental, like, to where he said he went to fire at the cat, missed it, accidentally hitting his son, and then he panicked because he's like, well, he was a cop at that point, so then he panicked and then took his son away. That was the kind of the story that was going around in a sort of way too. Do I really believe that one? It's really hard to tell. It's
possible maybe the kid got away when he fired the shot and he hit the kid. I mean, I don't know. There's so many ways. It's hard to say which way I'm leaning on this one because there's so many variables that go into this one.
There is. Now, the interesting part is the thing about this, though, too, is that this is a thing that, in this case, that we haven't really had in the past. This is a case to where the father was actually arrested and charged for second-degree murder. But interesting part was he only got 3 years in jail. And then when he gets out of jail, if you remember, he then starts posting signs saying, help me locate my son. So that is where, because now, like you said, his sister or whatever said that he admitted to it, but then once he got out of jail, he kept saying he didn't do it.
Yeah, I guess he was supposed to do 15 to 18 months, and he only served a year.
Yeah, because apparently he did time before that or
Yeah.
whatever. Now, do I personally think the father had something to do with it? I do. I really do believe that. But my thing is this. I want to know if the daughter knew that he killed him and put him in a black hole and she was afraid of it. Do you honestly think that she may know where he took him?
Probably not, because he probably took him in the car, and that somewhere in that 7 miles between their house and wherever the 7 miles ended up, he disposed of the kid.
Yeah, and that's the weird thing, because apparently they took, I guess, several weeks before they actually combed through the car to see if there was any evidence in the car whatsoever. And when they combed through it, they didn't find anything. But of course, that was 2 weeks later.
And that was all before DNA and all that stuff came around, so.
Well, DNA was always a thing. It's just whether or not they could, actually find DNA or whatever. So we have another theory, that people were kind of talking about what potentially could have happened. He got upset, at his son, because here's the interesting part too. If this is a legitimate story about the part I'm going to mention, it makes me wonder, like, who makes a 2-year-old do that? When the story
Right.
goes out that there was broken glass in the front yard, and he was making his 2-year-old pick up broken glass in the front yard, and
I wouldn't be doing that.
and that's where he got frustrated, supposedly with his son, because
There's
his
also
son,
a theory that Larry disposed of the child's body in an area known as Swamp Creek.
yeah, I did hear about that. It was the old Swamp Creek, but for some reason they didn't do a thorough look of Swamp Creek. They just did a little bit of one. So the evidence, when you actually think about possible evidence in this, they don't have like a ton of evidence about what happened. All they have is like just basically a bunch of conflicting stories. You do have some evidence to where, in some cases, you have some evidence to where you can kind of look around and you're like, okay, I found a shoe print here, a shoe print here. But then if you think about the other one, though, too, this is where his jogging story kind of all messed him up, is because he's like, okay, I went jogging on my normal route. But if you think about when he went jogging on his so-called normal route, they said that route on that day was like completely full of mud. It was muddy. And when he came back, there was no mud on his shoes. There was no mud on his clothes. How would you explain that?
Right. And plus, you think, you're going jogging, you're going to build up sweat and stuff. None of that was there.
Yeah, that's why this whole situation, I'm like, dude, this is crazy. This is crazy.
It's just like one of the most bizarre cases we've had so far.
Well, especially because it's a 2-year-old, and the only eyewitness that you technically have at that time was a 4-year-old. And I'm not saying that 4-year-olds, don't know the difference between right and wrong, and they can't give a thorough description, especially if they're afraid. But it's gonna be hard to get like all the actual proper details that you need, especially when they tell you one thing and then later on the witness stand they change their story.
Right.
So the actual like really big theory that I was saying was happening before, that I didn't quite finish, was that when the dad was making him pick up the glass, the dad got frustrated because his son was taking his time, wasn't really picking up the glass like he wanted him to. He ended up losing his cool. He hit the kid a few times. His daughter saw it in the window. I
didn't know that part. Did you read that part where I guess Thomas had followed after his father when he started jogging? His father got mad and yelled at him, told him to wait for his sister to come out of the house.
No, the only thing that I read about on the jogging part was that they thought maybe he followed him. So I actually didn't read the part to where he did. I just saw that they potentially thought he did. And so that was when the father's like, okay, he's no longer here. Let me go back and look at the tracks and the places that I ran to see if he actually indeed did follow me. And they didn't really find anything.
Of course not. It's due to hit him somewhere.
So to you, by going off of this case, you do feel like the father had something to do with the disappearance.
I do. I really do. Because there's that 7 miles on the patrol car that's unaccounted for. He could have used that 7 miles to dispose of the kid somewhere. Which
is the whole likely story that we're thinking happened. Because of with the garbage bag, something black in the garbage bag. That's like a clue right there. Or the other one that could have happened that people were talking about is that he could have accidentally, when he fired at the cat, he could have accidentally hit his son.
And he panicked.
And then he panicked. That was the other one that people were talking about. Do I truly believe that one? I don't truly believe that, only based on the facts that the mom was saying. If I had to go one way because of the previous history that the mom was saying, and kind of like what the daughter was saying, that, you know, she kind of got abused along with him or whatever. They had a very abusive life. I'm kind of going with the way that the dad one night lost his cool and ended up beating the kid, and he didn't realize how much he beat the kid, and then the kid died, and so he panicked.
Yeah, I don't buy the whole missing him with shooting the cat thing either. I think he, like you said, he got in a wild rage, couldn't control it, and you know how they say you see red and then you don't know what's happening.
But he did shoot, though. He did shoot.
He did shoot, yeah.
Because the wife said he shot, and they found empty bullet and a dead cat. So
Right.
that part matches up. That's the one part that does, is that there was a cat involved. We know that the son did disappear. The only thing is trying to piece everything together around that time. So they did try and research to see if somebody actually did come in and kidnap them. Right now, the case is actually pretty much closed because they don't think that anybody actually kidnapped them. They really do think that the father did it, and that's why the father served time. I think
they're probably closing because the father was convicted and served the time for it.
Now, do I really think that the father did enough time? Absolutely not. I really think that the father should have actually done more time. 3 years in something like this is craziness.
It is crazy. I think dude should still be in prison. He should be serving life without parole.
But I think the reason is why they didn't give him that.
It's because they didn't have a body.
Yeah. They didn't have a body, and then technically they said lack of evidence. The only thing that they were going on was like hearsay, what the daughter was saying, what the mother was saying, what the father was saying, with the 3 different stories, and then the stepsister, you know, with the story that she was telling the
You
police.
got the frantic phone call.
Yeah, the frantic phone call. So you kind of have like 3 or 4 different stories, and the cops go, okay, which way does it lead to? Obviously, it leads to the father at that point. So they have to give him something. So they gave him some time in prison, not enough what he should have served. But
and you know that time in prison wasn't easy on him being a former cop.
Oh, definitely not. No, I can tell you that definitely was not going to be easy for him. He did end up leaving the police force and actually retiring. I think it was like
an insurance agent, wasn't he?
Huh?
He became an insurance agent from what I read.
Yeah. But if I remember right, after the incident, he retired like 12 months later or something like that. He
moved to Montana.
Yeah. And that's when they actually ended up arresting him, was when he lived in Montana.
Yeah.
And then they asked him and he like waived the being extradited and just said, no, I'll stay here. And I guess when it comes down to it, I guess he felt more comfortable there because he wasn't going to want to go back there and show his face back there again because of everything that happened. So yet again, we brought you another case. This was a very interesting case. To me, it was, I don't want to say an open and shut, but it's pretty dang close to it. It was pretty dang close.
Pretty dang close, yeah. I'm leaning towards the father.
At the very beginning, though, for any of you who research this, and the name is Thomas Gibson, so whenever you research this and you kind of go back and forth, you might at first look and be like, well, was it actually the father? But once you do that and you kind of read up, you're like, okay, it's definitely the father.
It's definitely the father.
So at first you might get a little confused, like, well, maybe, and then you're like, no, it definitely is. So
that's how I was. I was back and forth for a while, and then I'm like, no way, the father's definitely behind it.
Mm-hmm. So with that, though, we hope that everybody enjoyed another episode of Red Tape Files. We'll have another episode for you next week. If there is anything you guys want us to do, any type of cases, go ahead and drop them in the comment box, and we will definitely cover that case. With that, Mess Around, what are your final thoughts or any thoughts for you tonight?
My final thoughts, this was like one of the better cases we've done so far. There's so much more on this than any other case we've had. Like I said, anybody wants us to cover stories that you might find interesting, or you want to hop on and be a guest and talk about one of these cases, reach out to us, let us know.
Definitely. So thank you, everybody who tuned in. Thank you for watching the show. Yes, I know we're only going on 30 minutes because that's what the show is. It's only a 30-minute show. We don't go past 30 minutes. It's a little hard sometimes with the lack of evidence that we actually have.
We make it work, though.
Yeah, we do. So with that, we hope everybody has a fantastic night, and we will be able to catch you next Monday for another episode of the Red Tape File.
Also, Between the Ropes at 10 p.m. Pacific time. Not Between the Ropes, but Four Bros. Excuse me.
Four Bros.
I got wrestling on the brain. I watched Raw tonight.
Yeah. So, yes, tonight, Four Bros. Let's not forget about that. All right. So, with that, everybody have a fantastic night, and we will see you next Monday for another episode of the Red Tape Files.